There's some bikes out there that for whatever reason, I just instantly don't like, and that's even before I unbox the product. And for whatever reason, I didn't like this. But as the saying goes, don't judge a book by its cover. Or in this case, don't judge a bike by its box. Because this thing kicks butt. This is the Figoo S1 from Urban Drift. I dare say this is a phenomenal bike for just over $1,000. So let me dive into this and tell you why I thought it was such a great bike. And I'm gonna start with power, because this thing is just jam-packed with all the power that you could possibly want or need in an e-bike. It has the same size motor as a lot of other bikes in this class. That is a 750 watt motor, but it's all how they programmed it. They've done a nice job of squeezing out every bit of juice that that motor has to offer. Most bikes in this class are topping out about 21 to 25 miles per hour. This one has a top speed of 30 miles per hour, and that is using the throttle. Pedal assist is a little less powerful. With that, I topped out at 27, and at the very end of that road, it did start to incline. Now, when I wasn't filming, I hit a flatter section with maybe a slight downhill, and I was going 32, 33 miles per hour. Now, from 0 to 26, 27, it's quite fast. From 27 to 30, it does take about a block. Now, one thing that's common with bikes in this price range is it typically has a loud motor, and that is the case with this. So from 0 to 25, that thing is screaming at you. But from 25 to 30, it calms down. That's when the power starts to peak out a little bit, and therefore the noise starts to go down. And speaking of noise, at those faster speeds, the tires, which are actually quite knobby, I'll talk more about those later, but they're actually very quiet as well. It's the little things like that that I pay attention to that makes a bike stand apart from others. Now, the power doesn't only apply to speed. This thing rocks up hills. I tackled a 26% grade. Every bike that I've tested on that so far, except for maybe 2, I've had to help it up. And I thought as I got towards the top, it obviously started slowing down, but it had enough juice, enough power to make it all the way. Oh, we're gonna do it. It's gonna do it. Nice. Wow. That is awesome for the price of the bike. I was not expecting that. So steep and short hills, it kicks butt on. I wanted to test that out further, and so I took this up the canyon, and heading up that canyon, I was averaging 26 miles per hour. This is the fastest I've ever made it up this 2-mile stretch. Man, the power for hills is just phenomenal. So if you're looking for a bike to climb and to go fast as you climb, this will do the job. So you're looking at this and you see the basket in the front, you see the rack in the rear, you see BMX style handlebars, which gives you a higher and upright posture. So with all that, you wouldn't think that it has a poppy and fast start, but it does. There were a couple times when I was leaning back a little bit, I hit the throttle and it actually popped up the front wheel, scared me a little bit, but it was a good scare. The throttle's actually maybe even a little bit too sporty. As I was hitting these bumps and cracks on the trail, the motor would respond and react to those bumps. And so I had this pulsating sort of a feel or motion. And that's something that I see with bikes in this class is that they tend to gear the bike to just full power. As soon as the throttle hits a certain threshold, bam, it's 100% power. And the last thing about power is my average speed in the range test, which was 26 miles per hour. I had a full throttle on the highest pedal assist level, and at that speed, my app recorded 17.87 miles with 1,466 feet of elevation gain. If you look at 17 miles, you're thinking, that's not a long range, but when you combine that with 1,500 feet of elevation gain and averaging 26 miles per hour, that's actually a good range. Now, the company says this can get you up around 50 to 60 miles. So if you go slower, ride it nicer than I did, that's what you can expect. And one more thing about that test is I took the bike until it was completely dead. The power actually shut off, but 5 minutes before the bike died, I was still averaging 28 miles per hour. So it was like power, 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 bam, dead. Now, moving away from power onto other stuff that I liked about the bike, the first thing I want to talk about is the suspension. It's got to be the loosest front fork suspension I've ever seen on a bike. It doesn't take a lot to bottom those shocks out. I actually thought they were broken. I thought there was something wrong with them. I adjusted them as much as I could, and it didn't have any effect. At first, I didn't like that because hitting bumps when going 20 plus miles an hour, it would actually bottom those shocks out. So this is the type of suspension that the slower you go, the better it's gonna be. Now, since you have that front fork suspension and then also some very beefy and knobby all-terrain tires, I had to take this off-road. Anyway, I turned it down to pedal assist level 1, and at that level, it was just a little bit too slow. I mean, the bike is just crawling along, which makes you have to put in a lot more work. There was a lot of resistance in the cranks. So I cranked it up to pedal assist level 2, and then it was too fast. So I wish that there was a different speed between 1 and 2. But anyway, going back to level 1, it actually handled the rocks, the bumps, that type of terrain very well at that speed. I mean, you're barely going, so that suspension has time to, you know, manage those bumps. If you're looking to take this out into the mountains to explore some trails, I think you'd be okay. There are a couple things that I didn't like. The first one is the rack hits the tail light, which pushes it down. You do have a very long cord, and so I think the idea was to put that headlight at the front of the basket, but then there's no place to mount it, so I just kept it there attached right by the head tube. The other thing I didn't like was the welding scars. There's quite a few of them up here by the head tube, down underneath the saddle. That's something I just don't want to see. So that wraps up the Figoo S1. As you can tell, I was a fan of the bike, just a kick butt bike for the price. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. As always, thanks for watching and take care. Hey babe, come in here, babes. All right, got my wife here. She's gonna tell you some stuff that she likes about it now.
I like the color and the name, Figoo. That's how you say it.
Figoo.
Figoo. Figoo. The little basket.
You wanna ride in there?
My dog.
We do have a little tiny dog. In fact, the dog's name is Tiny. We can just put a little pillow in there and there you go. Any other feelings, thoughts, emotions that you have about the bike?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, get your butt out of here.